Welcome back. Hey, long time no see. All right, so I'm just going to walk you through a couple of the arguments on each side of the gun control debate that sometimes are a little sticky or a little bit tough for people to kind of, maybe wrap their heads around, right? So let me go on the side that's in favor of gun control, right? Stricter laws, stricter regulations, okay, maybe banning certain types of guns. Um, Excuse me. So to me, the argument that lots of people kind of um, gloss over or skip over, I suppose, is this one, right? That a gun makes things much more deadly, right? And well, I mean, probably you thought about that, right? Like it's not that complicated. But the thing that people forget is like it makes it more deadly normally in an emotional decision, right? So like if you're planning to murder somebody, like you could do it in lots of different ways, right? You don't need a gun. I mean, a gun might be effective, but like you could stab them, you could bash them over the head with a lead pipe. Okay, you could run them over with a car. I mean, there's dozens of ways that you could do it, right? And you could plan it out to the minute. But the danger with a gun is that if all of a sudden emotionally you just get really mad at somebody, and you have a gun, it typically just takes one pull of the trigger, right? Or can take just one pull of the trigger, and it's much more impersonal, right? Like I can be really mad at somebody, and I can shoot at them from say 50 feet away, and have a good chance of still killing them. And I can't like see their face at that distance very easily. I can't see their pain, right? But if I was to walk up to somebody and I was really emotional and mad, and I was to stab them, like I'm gonna see their face, or I'm gonna see the pain, and oftentimes my emotion then just kind of can, not always, but it can just kind of get washed away as I see the other person's pain and emotion and fright. Okay, and so then I probably will still stab them maybe once, right, or twice, but I might stop before it turns deadly. And so I think that's the argument that lots of people forget about, right, is that it's more deadly in emotional situations. And so the argument then goes, well, we should control that, right? We shouldn't let people have um, guns as readily available. Okay. Um, so the other one that makes sense, especially when you look at it in terms of comparing ourselves to England, is argument number 4 on the handout. So if you limit guns and if you restrict guns really tightly, like really tightly, then it becomes almost impossible for the criminals to even get guns. Right? So in England, where there's only 5 guns for every 100 people, even the criminals rarely have guns, right? In fact, there's a famous story a few years ago about an English rapper that wanted to get a gun, kind of, for like street cred, okay? And like he couldn't get one. And he actually ended up turning an airsoft gun into a gun. And he got in big trouble for that, actually. So like, here's a guy, I'm not going to call him a criminal, but here's a guy who had every connection to be able to get a gun illegally. And there's just so few of them that he couldn't even get one, right? And that's what argument number 4 is pointing to. That if you drastically reduce the number of guns, even the bad people can't get them. Okay. On the other side, right, the side that's against more laws and against regulations, I think that the part that oftentimes gets overlooked on this side is that currently our gun laws are probably stricter than most people think, but we don't always enforce them, at least not to the fullest extent. So a lot of times, like let's say I break into your house, right? And you're not, and I didn't realize you were there, and I can end up confronting you, right? And I'm just trying to rob you. I'm not trying to hurt you. But if I break into your house and I have a gun, I should be charged with a gun crime, right? I mean, I had a deadly weapon in your home. But oftentimes that just gets dropped in the whole court case thing because it gets faster and more efficient to drop that charge, and then that person doesn't go to jail for as long, right? And so lots of times we just don't enforce our gun laws as much as we should. So instead of having more laws, what if we actually just enforce the ones that we have? Right? And I gave you another example on the handout, right? It's actually a crime for a felon to apply for a gun, right? To go into a gun shop and try to buy one. A felon knows that they can't do that. And yet they oftentimes go in there and they fail the background check because it pops up that they can't have one, and then they just walk out and there's no penalty. Okay, so those are the kind of things that on the against gun control side, again, I think get glossed over, right? A lot of people that are against gun control say, well, I don't want more laws. I think our laws are okay. I wish we would enforce them more. All right, and then the other one that gets glossed over is that people think that lots of guns equals lots of crime. And I think there are some arguments to be made that it might increase violent crime. But more gun control does have a very strong direct statistical connection to lack of what's called petty crime. So in America, it's very rare that you would get mugged on the street, right? Somebody's not going to run up to a woman and try to take her purse because they don't know if her husband or some other man on the street is carrying a gun, and they might, take matters into their own hands. Breaking and entering, right? In other words, breaking into somebody's home while they're there to rob them. Very rare, because who knows if the homeowner has a gun. Okay, so homes are broken into, but the criminals almost always try to do it when they're sure nobody's there. All right, and so these levels of crime or these types of crimes are actually very, very, very low in America compared to many, many other countries in the world. Okay, so if you've got questions about the handout, right, send them my way. If you're not sure, right, I'm always available for questions. But yeah, those are just a few extra details perhaps that needed to work through. And then again, you've got the quiz/assignment to answer.